Welcome everyone to July 2025's episode or session of Spiritual Questions Answered. And tonight's topic will be Kundalini. Okay, those of you who don't know me, my name is Kat. I will spare with the introduction. If you've been following me on our YouTube channel, you know me. If not, you can just Google. I'm the co-founder of CordyKet, and you can find some information on us. So the topic tonight will be on Kundalini. I'll be sharing with you what exactly it is, all right, what happens when it gets activated or awakened, what to do, and so on. So hopefully we'll have enough time, and if you have any questions after what I have to share, you can type your questions in the chat. All right, I'll take a look and answer them. Okay, so without further ado, we'll talk about Kundalini. So the first thing is, what exactly is the Kundalini? Okay, those of you who are attending this, some of you would, probably most of you or all of you would have heard of this term. Okay, but what exactly is it? Many people talk about it. So let me just draw. Okay. So this is supposed to be a person sitting down, meditating, cross-legged. Okay. Can I assume that most people know what chakras are? Now, most humans on Earth have the 7 chakra system, all right, or 7 major chakra system. So the location of the chakras will be one on the top, we call the crown. You have the third eye, you have the throat chakra, you have the heart chakra, you have the solar plexus chakra, you have the sacral chakra, and at the bottom, all right, you have the root chakra. Okay, I'm using English words, I'm not using the Sanskrit terms. So you have 7 chakras, you can count from top to bottom, bottom to up, it doesn't matter. Okay. Now, these chakras form as an energy system, all right? And I will not talk too much about the rest now. I'm just going to focus on the Kundalini. Okay, so the Kundalini, usually what people draw is they will focus on the root chakra over here, and typically they will draw, instead of this, they may draw something like a round thing or a coiled snake. Okay, so they will draw a coil. Okay, it's like a spring or a snake in place of this thing here. So I'm just drawing it a little bit bigger. I hope it looks like a coil to you. Okay. Now, there are lots of talk about what exactly is the Kundalini. Is it the root chakra, or is it not the root chakra, or what? Okay, so actually Kundalini is an energy that is stored within the root chakra. Okay, it's energy that is stored within the root chakra. So this will be the root chakra. Okay, let me just use English term. Yeah, the Sanskrit term is called Muladhara. Okay, let's simplify it. We call it the root chakra. Okay, so within the root chakra there is a Kundalini. Okay, so what is commonly known about Kundalini? Okay, so you all have a lot of terms that you all may have heard about Kundalini. Okay, so you have heard of stuff like, very common nowadays is you have, let me just short form, okay, Kundalini, just for tonight, okay, K is for Kundalini, normally K is for cat, okay, so tonight K is for Kundalini. So you have a Kundalini Yoga, okay, a term that you may have heard of, Kundalini Activation, Kundalini Awakening, these are the common terms, okay, or there may be other terms that are being used to express the same thing, or you have a Kundalini energy work, or they'll mix it with some other fancy term, but they'll mention that it's the Kundalini. But essentially, all right, so you will have stuff like yoga, okay, which may or may not be a physical yoga or exercises, but yoga means a set of practices. okay, or activation, awakening. And so I'm going to share with you all what exactly happens when people go for this type of things, okay, Kundalini yoga, activation, awakening. Now we're going to go back to this. So this is actually so I call it part of the prana system. Alright, there's an energy system. The energy is called prana because the Indians discovered it. They call the type of energy prana. Okay, for us we like to call it also the light. So whether it's light or prana, we just use it interchangeably because many people will see it as an invisible form of light. Yeah, so you talk about aura. Okay, usually prana aura, people can see the aura. So these chakras belong to a system, okay? So you can call it prana system. Some people will call it chakra system, okay? I'm calling it like the prana system or the light system based on the energy which is inside here. Now, so in the prana system, okay, you will have the energy centers are called chakras. Okay. So you have the energy centers, they are called chakras. And most people will have 7 chakras, okay, but not all. Most people will have 7 chakras. Then you have the E is for energy, okay, E is for energy. Then you have the energy pathways. They are called nadis. Okay, they are called nadis. Now, the most important channels are the most important, energy pathways or channels. All right, are the ones that run up and down the spine. Okay, so if you take note, the chakras are actually, more or less on the middle of body. Actually, they go to the spine. Okay, and you will have energy pathways or energy channels running up and down, and they're supposed to be 3. Okay, so when they draw the 3, I'm trying not to mess up the drawing. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to draw it over here. Okay, this will represent the Kundalini energy in the center of the root chakra. All right, and then so this is the root chakra. Then you will have the sacral chakra, then the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. So let me try to space it out. Sorry, yeah. So this is the crown chakra. Okay, so the top one will be the crown, so this will be the root. In the roots, there will be the Kundalini. So there will be 3 channels, okay? To keep it simple, so generally the 3 channels are drawn like this, yeah? So you have one line here, okay? Then you have one line here. So one central line, one line like this. Then they'll draw another line, like snake. So it will be drawn like this, okay? So the energy is flowing here. I'm not trying to draw here so that the markers don't mix the color with the black and then it get very messy. I hope you all could understand that. So there are three energy channels. They are actually named, sorry, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna. You can Google all this information, okay? It's no big deal. So you know that there are 3 lines and they are generally drawn like this to represent that actually it can go up and down and you go into wave. So the energy can go into wave, and there are a lot of descriptions about this Kundalini energy. Okay, so yoga activation, awakening, and another term would be like a Kundalini rising. Rising is a term that is often associated with Kundalini because a lot of people, when the Kundalini gets activated, awakened, or rising, they will feel energy will rise from the bottom. Okay, so where is this bottom? Well, this bottom will be at the end of your spinal cord. All right, so if you know where's the end of your spinal cord, so you just press your bum. All right, so around the bum that you can feel the crack of your bum. All right, the spine goes roughly there. Okay, goes roughly there. Now, different people will experience different sensations. So usually, the sensations can start from around there. So you'll be around the sexual organs because the bum, that area below. So some people will feel it in their anus area. Men can feel it around their testes. Okay, because this energy, the chakra is not just like that. Yeah, the energy actually points downwards. So the energy will actually point downwards. The chakra energy will point downwards, kind of like this. And if you imagine the energy is somewhere in the center, and then it will rise. Okay, so it will rise from somewhere at the bottom. So near the bottom of your spine, near your, near your anus or your sexual organs area, and it will rise up. So a lot of description will be, they talk about the description term is, on the common term is snake. All right, people will feel there is a rising motion that is like, you all know the snake charming, and then the snake comes up. So it's kind of like the energy will wave itself up. So you'll be like a snake wavy. That is one way of description. Now, another form of description that people will describe when they experience this, okay, is not only does it wave, okay, it will. Some people can actually feel this. All right, it doesn't just wave like this; it's waving like this. All right, so it's like waving and spiraling at the same time. So there is some sort of spiral there. So it's called, and it kind of waves up as wave is like spiraling. Okay, some people will feel it. Okay, so when the Kundalini is activated, all right, it will do all this. So people have heard about Kundalini activation, awakening, rising, and you will find on internet descriptions that talk about it. There will be snake-like energy sensations, wavy, spiral. Okay, what else to expect when something like this happens with a Kundalini? Now, you all will be wondering what if it's not awakened or activated, or it does not rise at all? There is nothing. There is nothing special. But if there is something of this sort, okay, so this energy is in the root chakra, and something happens to it. Usually, it's all these terms: activation, awakening, rising, whatever. That people are more or less trying to describe the same thing. A lot of people will experience this, okay, or the kind of other sensations that are physical that can be expected. Another one is heat. So a lot of people will feel very warm, okay, will feel heat. These are kind of like physical sensations, okay. If we are talking about emotional, all right, emotional, then many people or emotional or energy. Okay, let me use blue color. A lot of emotional energy. A lot of people will feel, one, they can feel very irritable. All right, we'll feel very irritable. Yeah, spell it correctly. One R. They can feel very irritable. They can feel very. Some people will have anxiety, fears. Now, and it can be a lot of reason. A huge amount of it will be all this irritable, and there can be different types of emotions But all these are usually linked to suppressed emotions, okay, or what we call issues. So what is happening is this. When the Kundalini rises, I'm going to talk about how to do it, okay? But I'm just explaining what is out there in the internet. People will describe all this and whatever is happening. And some of you may even have been experiencing some form of Kundalini, just that you don't know it, okay? So what happens is this. Initially, the energy is dormant, all right? Energy is dormant. Due to certain conditions, this will happen. The activation, awakening, or the rising, it will happen. Now, when it happens, there is a huge amount of energy that is stored within the root chakra. It will rise. Now, when it rises, it does a few things. Now, not unknown to most people, many of us store our emotions as in the form of energies in our chakras and in our body, and specifically, a lot of times it will be in this main pathway of energy. Our spine is a main pathway of energy. There is this light and prana system. There is also another energy system, which is the chi system, and it also runs up and down the spine. Our spine, and it carries our electric signals and everything. So our spine is really important in terms of energy, whether it's physical energy or in terms of subtle energy. So in terms of subtle energy, you have this prana system, and the other one is the chi system, which we are not addressing today. Now, basically, so you have all these chakras, and a lot of people will store negative energies in the chakras. Okay. So let's say a very common one that happens to people, the very big issue, okay, will be the first stop here, which is the sacral chakra. All right, so this is the sacral chakra, and in sacral chakra, sacral chakra and that region is where suppressed energies are stored. And when I say energies, it is also applying to emotions. Okay, so that is the area where suppressed energies and emotions are stored. So what do I mean by suppressed energies and emotions? So that I hope you all understand. Now, how many of you, you have a discussion and the discussion turns into an argument? All right, you have a discussion and discussion turns into argument. And let's say you are the peacemaker. You're the one who does not want to blow up the argument. What do you end up doing? Okay, a lot of times, what the person ends up doing is like, okay, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to swallow. I'm going to swallow my anger. I'm going to try and press down my anger. I'm going to try and suppress my anger, suppress my voice, and I'm not going to speak further for peace, to allow peace to happen. And there is sort of an unconscious swallowing. Do you all notice that? Right? When we suppress, there's kind of unconscious or subconscious kind of like swallow. I swallow. You get what I mean? And the energy of these negative energies literally get swallowed and suppressed and get stored. And the main area that gets stored is here at the sacral chakra area here, the lower abdomen. Okay, somewhere below your belly button. It gets stored there. So that is a huge thing that usually happens. And this is the first stop. This is the first stop of the Kundalini when it gets awakened, activated, or when it rises, right? It will rise. And the first stop is this sacral. So a lot of people will feel this, and it depends on what they suppress or that they store within that area. Usually, we're not even talking about the Kundalini managing to go all the way up. But at the very first stop, okay, so when Kundalini happens, a lot of people will suddenly feel very emotional. And suddenly, a lot of stuff that they have suppressed, they have kept inside, they can no longer keep it within. It's like it's being stirred. It's being stirred, okay? It's being stirred by this Kundalini. And some people may have emotional, nervous breakdowns, or they they become very argumentative. They may pick fights with people, or they become less tolerant, right? Because before they were suppressing, but now that the Kundalini has been awakened, it just doesn't allow things to be suppressed down there. It just keep on rising, right? And the first stop is here. And of course, there will be many more stops. So here it will be the solar plexus, all right? Above the solar plexus will be the heart chakra, emotional issues, then the throat chakra, throat issues, the third eye, the mental issues, and then the last stop at the crown is the spiritual issues. But usually the biggest impact that people feel and the strongest is here. And sometimes the Kundalini may not be able to go further than this because the blockage is so huge and the people are going through so much turmoil just from this. And first stage and the Kundalini may never get past this, but this is usually the main thing. Okay, so the Kundalini will rise. There is a lot of suppressed energies, and people suppress emotions and energies, and people will start experiencing them again. So stuff that it could be, it could even be things that you have suppressed and you think you have gotten over because you've forgotten it. Your long lost ex, for example. All right, long lost ex, for example. And here is sacral, is also linked to sexual energies. All right, some people will become very emotional and become also sexually needy. It is very normal. Okay, and as it rises, it can trigger other things. So, and and you'll be wondering why. So, what is happening is the Kundalini energy. Okay, we need to understand that this energy, this red color energy, this prana, is an energy that is essentially quite, all right, this energy of the prana is actually quite pure. It is of light and it is of goodness. All right, the energy of prana is pure, is of light, is of goodness. And anything that is contrary to purity, contrary to light, it tries to unblock and release. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to unblock and release. But not many people understand this. The Kundalini will awaken is trying to unblock and help us to release these dark energies, negative, they are not pure, they are not of light, okay, they are not of goodness. It's trying to help us to release. As it rises, it's trying to help us to release all the negative energies. It's actually trying to unblock a pathway, okay, from bottom to go up. All right, it's actually trying to unblock a pathway from bottom to go up. But as it is being released, many people will re-experience the emotions that were suppressed. So they will feel irritable and, maybe they used to feel fearful as a child and it was suppressed and it's forgotten. And suddenly all these things are coming back. It can be very unpleasant. Okay? So what is the point? The point is the Kundalini is actually trying to activate and rise all the way up to the crown. And the idea is for it to clear the pathway all the way through the top. This is actually what a Kundalini awakening rising or activation is trying to do. Okay. Now, why does this happen? When does this happen? Of course, nowadays, you have people practicing Kundalini yoga, going for Kundalini activation classes and sessions by some gurus or healers or coaches even. Nowadays, there's all kinds of certifications of different type of coach. All right, and many people are claiming and trying to say that they can do this. They can activate, awaken, or help your Kundalini to rise or whatever. Or they may be yoga teachers, right? And they are doing some form of yoga or some other form of energy work, even breath work with the aim of doing this. Now, those are what I call the not exactly natural. Not exactly natural. That means you are trying to force it to happen. You're trying to make it happen. Now, Kundalini awakening or activation or rising actually can happen, so to say, in itself. It can be spontaneous. All right, it can be spontaneous. So a lot, this term is used quite often to describe certain kundalinis that does not fall under this category, whereby there is, people who are actively trying to do it. So in general or in the past or naturally, kundalini seems to happen by itself. That's why it's called spontaneous. You all heard of the term like spontaneous combustion? Like something just suddenly combusts and bursts into flames. Okay, so the kundalini, they use this term for, a person can go through life and suddenly they have a kundalini awakening. Okay, a spontaneous one. And there may be reasons that are linked to it. Now, how and why does this happen? What are the conditions? So we are no longer talking about the man-made ones whereby you go and look for some activities to do it. Now, this spontaneous Kundalini awakening can happen to a few things. Now, one of the things that can cause it to happen, all right, is this. Paradigm shift. Have you heard of some paradigm shift? Basically, something happens to that person that shakes the person's worldview. Shakes the person's worldview. Or shakes the person so much that he or she, just feel like their understanding of the world have to completely change in order for them to cope with new information that they have received or that they are experiencing. All right, then they go through a paradigm shift or something happened. All right, and they just, okay, so this can come under a few types of reasons. For example, some people maybe they go through death of a close family member, friend, relative, spouse, parent, child. Yeah, it's a very traumatic event, but it's not about just trauma. All right, a trauma or a big impact. That incident led the person to completely change mentally, like the way they prioritize life. You can you imagine if someone go through the passing of someone that is really very important in their lives, someone that they love, right? And it can totally mean that, for example, if they have been working and living in the corporate world, doing the rat race, going for money, and something like that happens, and they will just feel that life has no meaning anymore, correct? And they're just going to drop the whole entire rat race thing. And if their partner was someone who was never interested in the corporate world, someone who's out to do charity, for example, or social work, and then they may feel like, you know, they need to carry on the flag of the partner, and then they will just, entire world will change. And because this world will change, there's this paradigm shift. Now, the aspects of life which governs which governs this, our paradigm, our worldview, our very, what I call, foundation, the base, the foundation of a person. All right, all the energies are represented in the root chakra. And the root chakra is the, you know, is the base of a person, yeah, of all the chakras. So the root chakra is representation of the base, the foundation, the roots of a person, the root chakra. Okay. Now, when the foundation gets shaken by a serious event that is so strong that it causes paradigm shift, because this whole foundation will change, and then it's all represented by energies, it can activate, awaken, or cause the Kundalini to rise. This is usually one of the things, okay, that causes a spontaneous Kundalini awakening or activation or rising, however way you want to call it. Now, the other thing that normally will happen will be people who do spiritual or energy practices. And this would include, okay, stuff like meditation. Okay, don't panic, don't panic. Okay, some of you, if you meditate, yeah, certain types of even qigong, because qigong uses certain type of energy, okay, or any energy practices, okay, energy and spiritual practices. So I'm just listing down these two. Okay, these two are a bit common. So it would seem to be spontaneous. Some people are meditating. Now, if some of you understand meditation, and if you are doing it more or less correctly, you will find that meditation can change you and result also, okay, in the paradigm shift. And that is just one aspect of it. Now, the other aspect is when you do meditation, certain types of meditation can have energies, okay? It can trigger energies, or not say certain type. In fact, actually most types of meditation, okay? They can actually cause this type of things to happen, and this is where people, some people caution about meditation, all right? We'll give caution about meditation because there are groups of people who say meditation is no good because things can go wrong. So I'm just covering like this kind of thing. So people don't understand it. It will seem as if things can go wrong. Okay, so because when you're doing these type of practices, if it somehow activates the Kundalini and the person will experience all this, then all this will come under negative labeling, isn't it? And they don't quite actually understand what's happening. So this is something that can happen. And the third one is due to the divine. Okay, due to divine, that means due to a particular god or deity. Okay, whether you may not believe it, but the gods, the deities, they are all real, and they can actually activate it for a person. Okay, because these are all energies. The divine are of energies, and these energies are supposed to be of pure light and of goodness, and the divine are of pure light and goodness, and they can activate it, and usually so there are many reasons for this to happen. So the idea is, so bear in mind this, the activation is to help a person release all the negativity. Can we all understand this? So it is to unblock and release negativity. This point we must remember, okay? Is to unblock and release negative energies. But people experience negativity because the negativity is on the way out and people are experiencing it. And most people tend to latch on to experiences, tend to be very attached to their emotions and experiences, and they don't know or they don't understand to let go. Okay, but some of those people who are doing it right, who will understand spiritual and energy practices, or if they're really spiritual, they will understand that if anything like this happens or whatever happens, they need to learn to let go and not hang on. Okay, rightfully. But there are many nowadays, a lot of people, normal people, that are going for all this, which they don't come under these spiritual practices, they don't quite understand. So people who are actually under here, if they are doing it properly, they will also understand that when things come up, when dark stuff come up from our past, usually it's from our past or from within us, we don't hold on to it. And even if it's something that's good, and we experience it in meditation, we experience it energetically, all right? One of the most important things is we don't hang on to it, we focus on our breath or on our light or whatever, and we just let it go, let it pass, let it pass. Anyone who's meditating, you will have heard of this, right? This too shall pass, focus on your breath. For us, we do light meditation, focus on your light, and all this darkness, just let it go, let it pass. Okay, so the people who are supposed to be on this side, they're supposed to understand, and should the Kundalini happen to them, they should be rightfully, all right. Let's say if they are doing energy or spiritual practices, they should have a teacher who understands all this, all right. And usually it doesn't happen to normal people doing it. Normal people doing meditation rarely get this because most people do meditation, they do very surface kind of meditation, very surface. Even if they enjoy some peace, they don't actually get deep enough for this type of things to happen. For this type of things to happen, is really very, very serious. You have a paradigm shift, all right. You have serious spiritual energy practices, okay, or divine. That means the divine have chosen you. Okay, divine has chosen you. You are one of the chosen people, okay, or the divine would like you to awaken. All right. Why the term awaken? So the Kundalini gets awakened, but the person is also supposed to awaken. And for awakening to happen, the blockages must go. The blockages that cause us to suppress our voice, that cause us to suppress and keep a lot of negative energies, experiences, unforgiveness stored in our body, or our mind that is blocked because we have a very closed mind. We are so narrow-minded that we cannot accept other viewpoints, for example. So the energy is supposed to try and help us clear all this, because this is all supposed to happen to people who are on the way to becoming a better person. So they're usually on a spiritual path, right? And when divine comes around, or they experience a paradigm shift that they are causing them to become a good person, a better person. It will drop all the materialism, the selfish-centered considerations and operation standards of the world, of corporations, of society. All right, this is normally what is happening. Okay, and usually now all this, as it happens, okay, as it happens, so all these people are on a path of, they normally have a spiritual path or a path to goodness. Okay, you can say generally there's a path to goodness. But this thing is kind of unpleasant, so the path needs you to relook at your past, how you've been horrible, you've been judging, a person who judges other people, a person who was unforgiving, and now you realize that you need to let it go. and it's good for your soul, and you will cry or you emote it out. Okay, so they are on the path to goodness, whether it's spiritual energy practices or paradigm shift. And after these people go through, usually they will end up having some sort of spiritual abilities. Some people will call it the psychic abilities. Why? What's happening? So this Kundalini energy is actually very strong, very powerful, and it is able to help clear the path and clear away the negativity. So all the chakras light up, okay? And the chakras actually power spiritual and psychic abilities. All right? The chakras actually power spiritual and psychic abilities. So some, a lot of people are very have heard about the third eye ability, the ability to see, to see invisible stuff, to foretell the future, and so on. Okay, so all this come under this, and that's why a lot of people are seeking this Kundalini activation awakening. A lot of people, so some people will associate it with powers. All right, I prefer to use the term abilities because power tend to, but most people tend to use the term powers because they think that it's powerful, okay, and they want some of this power because it is something special. And because of that, people get drawn to this Kundalini activation or awakening or rising for the wrong reasons. They are attracted to powers. But in the natural order, this thing is only meant to happen to people who are on the path to goodness. And when people are on the path to goodness, I think, have you all noticed that many people who are very spiritual, or we tend to associate people who are spiritual to have some sort of psychic gift or some spiritual ability. Yes? Yeah? Now this is only gained through goodness. The programming is such, right, that this thing, it is meant to only happen when people go through this. But now, because of this, people get attracted to this. And then they start to offer this commercially. And when I say commercially, means it's on the basis of just payment. And it has nothing to do with this, the path of goodness. Just payment, Hey, I heard of Kundalini and I heard that it can give people powers. All right? And abilities. Yeah? And some may try to be nice and downplay it, but, a lot of people, they're looking out to earn money if they're offering this. And they know people are actually looking for stuff like that, for powers. And they will offer this. Now, this is actually something that's very dangerous. Okay? I also have talked a little bit in previous talk before. Now, if you are going through this, it is generally more safe than if you're going through something that is more commercial. Why? Now, for most people that are going through a paradigm shift, they're really on the path to goodness. There is a higher likelihood that this thing will clear properly, and then eventually all this will settle down and harmonize. Okay? Either that, or some people are doing some spiritual energy practices and they should have a teacher, a guru that they're learning with who can help them handle it. Right? Someone who has gone through the pathway, who understands. Or if it is being activated by the divine will take care of things. All right? Yes, they will feel some turmoil or whatever is necessary because it's part of the process of awakening, an awakening of the mind, heart, soul, whatever. this thing causes an awakening of sorts. Okay, so it is generally safe. But for people who are doing this other way, on the commercial things, the commercial way, firstly, even certified, um, even certified gurus or teachers or activators, whatever you want to call them facilitators, they are actually not. They don't have what it takes to handle it. Now, what does it take to handle it? You need to be someone who, if there's a teacher here, they need to be someone who's spiritual, who has some understanding of energy and understanding of Kundalini and the process. Of course, you were talking about the divine, of whichever religion, they will understand. Okay, paradigm shift, usually when people shift, they really change overnight, like practically overnight, and they really become a good person. It's like, they will just drop all their baggage and they'll just change. Okay, it has happened to many people. And if they can actually do that, it is actually quite safe. But for most people who are going here, these are the people who are captivated by powers. They don't have the right mindset, they don't have the right preparation, and they don't have people who can help them oversee. Now, I would like to caution, because in my line of work, okay, whereby I didn't really give an introduction, but I do spiritual and energy healing, cleansing, that kind of thing. We have encountered many people whereby they go for this and they end up something nasty happens. Now, it doesn't always happen to everybody, but for those that will happen, it is quite nasty. Okay, there are people who, for example, if this thing happens, I've got one client in Shanghai, she couldn't move. She couldn't move when it happened. And not just her, there are others as well. When the Kundalini rise and the energy is so strong, it overloads their system. They cannot move. Some cannot even open their eyes. They cannot even open their eyes. Can you imagine that? How difficult is it to raise and open your eyelid? This has happened many times before. I've seen clients, and some in our presence, when they go through meditation and they go through some paradigm shift, and if it happens, at least, but we are there to help them take care of it. The Shanghai lady that I've mentioned this story before, when it happened to her, the facilitator, the guru or teacher, could not help her at all, and she was immobile for the full day of the course, almost the full day, many hours. Eventually, the teacher gave up, cried, and just left. Just couldn't handle it. She's not the only one. There are others like her, So, if you are one of those people who are seeking this, I really want to, caution you all. All right? You all need to understand what this is supposed to be about. Now, and if it should happen spontaneously to you, and should you happen not to, have someone to be able to help you. Now, remember this. What is the purpose of Kundalini awakening? Okay? The moment it's activated, it's supposed to unblock and release all the negative stuff. So what you need to remember is, don't hold on to it. Let go. You must remember to let go, to forgive, to accept the things that cannot be changed. All those things that have happened in the past, you need to accept, even if it was the death of a very dear one, who died very tragically, unfairly. You need to accept it. Because if you don't, when this thing keeps triggering, all right, it's trying to release, and if you don't accept or let go or forgive, it means you're trying to hold on to these energies. The energies go, and then you bring it back. You want to hang on to it, hang on to your unforgiveness, hang on to your anger. Then you're going to be in for a rough ride. You need to tell yourself this. And this is actually a pathway to goodness. And some people will become, spiritually awakened. and they will gradually shift. Now, I also want to mention this. Some of you may think that this Kundalini activation awakening is something that happened one time. Okay? No, it's not. It's usually a series. All right? So, most likely when it happens, it will happen more than one time and multiple times within a certain time period. So, and there may be a time period whereby it goes bam, 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 bam. Or some people have it nice. It goes bam, 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 and it's very, some people go bam, bam, bam. That means each time it activates, it's just very strong. Okay, different people go through different processes. It's very difficult to say because there are many factors over here that's happening. Those of you who have heard of our story of Cordelia, Cordelia had a very strong one. She went through a series of strong ones, like bam, 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 bam. So it just keep on, and it caused her to change, right? It caused her worldview to change. It wasn't a paradigm shift that happened that caused it. It was the divine giving her spontaneous activation, and then she started to have paradigm shifts. She started to think differently. She started to have a lot of suppression that were inside her all coming out. And when she tried to deal with that, and when she tried to hasten the process, if you read her book, all right, there's this book, Possessed from Darkness to Light by Cordelia Lee. Possessed from Darkness to Light is available on Amazon. For those of you, if you're in Malaysia or Singapore, you can come and get a copy from us. Okay, she tried to hasten the process, and she wanted to get it over and done with in one night. And after that, she was totally floored by the experience. So no, it's usually a series of events. It can happen over weeks, over months, and quite often, it will happen a few weeks, and it can a few weeks throughout the year and over the years. So gradually, so there are many different experiences. So don't just look for. A lot of people think, we're kind of dramatic in our mind. You'll be like, oh, Kundalini activation rising, and just bam, and then suddenly you start getting abilities. You start getting powers. No, it doesn't actually work like that. So for different people, and then they will experience the different sensations I was telling you. Usually it starts from the bottom of the body. And some people are more sensitive to energies. They experience more. They feel it more. Others don't. They may feel a little bit more heaty, hot, warm, and a little bit irritable, but they have no idea this is happening. Okay, some people are like that. Now, what are the things you can do? So you need to let go, forgive, accept. So this is mentally, emotionally, these are the things that you will need to do. Okay, so other things that you will need to do is, it's good to have some sort of energy practices that will teach you to, that's very important. You need to learn to harmonize your energies. Or you need to harmonize yourself. Okay? You cannot be angry, or you shouldn't let all this cause you to be in perpetual anger or irritation. Now, harmonize your energies. That is, it's good that if you have some energy practices. That's why those people who are on this path, if they are doing it right, their meditation or qigong practices will help them harmonize it. Okay? Otherwise, a lot of people, what you will end up having to do, okay, the standard method that people are going to talk about is you need to ground more. Ground, like grounding. That means you want to connect yourself to the ground, okay, to the bare earth, if possible, with your bare feet, okay, where possible, or you need to expose yourself more to nature, so that, because when this rises, you're going to have an overload of energy, too much energy. Right? That's why people will feel heat. Okay? So if you have practices that can teach you to harmonize or ground, if not, you need to really ground and get yourself seated, touching the earth. Okay? Earthing, grounding, earthing. Yeah. This is to deal with the energies. So those of you who have energy practices, you may have other types of practices to deal with it. Now, some people will find it very difficult to ground because some people are not, the character themselves are not very grounded. Now, if you're not a very grounded person, if you like to be airy-fairy, you are like very airy-fairy, you like to daydream, or for example, a lot of people, they're going looking for powers because they're always dreaming of having some powers, and they're not very grounded, they're not very practical people, they're always thinking of, the kind of things, hocus pocus too much. Now, you can think of it, but if you get overboard, you're kind of really ungrounded. It means you're not, people will say that ungrounded means kind of not so realistic. Then, and the energies respond the same way. The energies cannot ground, cannot go down. Then you may have some problems dealing with it. The energies will tend to rise, and then it will reach the top of the head, and then it will collect there. And then many people will end up having, okay, so another symptom will be headaches. All right, they will feel that that the head is want to burst because there's too much energy or headache. So this is one of the signs. Okay, but there are many different types of headaches, but usually these are too much energy. Okay, and it's good to have practices that are able to harmonize. Now, otherwise, what we tell people is, if you cannot get the energy to ground or go down, and if you're a person who's very ungrounded and the energies tend to rise and then it stay up there. Now, so one reason why it stay up there is it cannot get past your crown. And usually it cannot get past the crown because a lot of people are not spiritual enough. And when I say spiritual enough, that means like true spirituality. That means like truly want to become a good person and not just about powers. And not just about, connecting with spirits. And if you keep on having some fancy idea, you want to do some channeling, connect with spirits, connect with extraterrestrials, all these are very bad for you, okay? Let me tell you that it's very bad for you. It doesn't help. Okay, what you need to do is, you need to be kind of more grounded, and the focus is on being a good person. A good person who wants to live in harmony with the world. And really change yourself to live harmony, and not being ungrounded and talk about all powers to talk to entities and channeling and downloading or this kind of stuff. That can get you into serious trouble. Okay, so if it doesn't, okay, so you will rise, and then so because people are having the wrong idea of spirituality, this gets blocked. So you need to learn to really be spiritual, and really being spiritual is about being a good person. Really. And being a really good person means a person who can harmonize with the rest of the world, with the people around you, with society. Okay, and also internally, you must be able to harmonize. In terms of energy methods that you may, okay, some of you may be listening in, if it's happening to you. Now, an energy method that, that can help also, all right, now you need to work on being truly a good person. Now, the energy method that can help is what we call steaming. All right, so the energy will rise to the top, and because if you're an ungrounded person, or if you are the type who have difficulty grounding or earthing it, sending down to the ground. So one of the methods that we teach is you allow it to rise up like black smoke or steam and disappear. Okay, so those of you who watch kung fu movies, wuxia, those of you who are Chinese, they show all the Chinese pugilists. When they practice internal energy, what they do is they steam. All right, steaming. All right, you can steam all the energies out. Otherwise, what we normally teach in our meditations is we teach a breath method. A breath method that helps everybody ground. Okay, that helps people to ground, which is very simple. All right, just every time you exhale, you relax yourself from head to toe. Okay, so the method will be, so this is steaming. So another method would be, what you do is you exhale, and as you exhale, you relax from head to toe. All right, so you relax head to toe, and let all the energies ground. And it will be facilitated by your breath, and what is important to also help this facilitate is your palms. Your palms, if you're seated cross-legged, okay, wherever your palms should face up. Well, some of you are, if you've been attending our meditations, you've been wondering why. So all this, may make a little bit more sense now. So we always talk, when we sit down and meditate, we want our palms to be up. Okay, and when we do our breath, when we close our eyes and when we exhale, we relax ourselves. So we exhale. As we exhale, we relax from head to toe. And you feel thinking, you feel a grounding. And the energies will flow down and out. So the energies will flow down and out our hands and fingers. That's why you want your palms to face up, all right, down and out our hands and fingers, and then down our body, our legs to the ground. So this is the breath that we normally teach people. It's a grounding breath, it's a letting go breath. It's the best breath you can do, all right, for meditation. It's one of the best, okay? Okay, so when people are, you get this Kundalini and you're going to be very hot. Now it makes sense to drink more water, all right? Make sure you drink more water. You do all these exercises, you harmonize yourself, and, okay, remember this, be a good person. You must understand all these are happening is to try and facilitate you to be a good person. And let go of if you have some fascination about the powers, let go of it. Don't worry about it. If you focus on being a good person, all right, by God, by the heavens, this process is, if you are a good person, you will get some abilities and powers. It will naturally come to you. Just like Cordelia now is, she has some kind of abilities and powers, all right? But it's more, now all these abilities and powers are meant to go to a good person, so that when you have this paradigm shift and you become a good person, you have some form of ability to help you go out there and change the world. Do you get what I mean? This is why, a lot of these spiritual people, the spiritual masters, the gurus, and whether they are officially masters or gurus or whatever, and they can be religious leaders or not, they will have an awakening, a realization. And so important, it's so life-changing for them that it changes their worldview, it changes the paradigm, and they know, I will do what I can within my social circle to effect change, positive change. It will start with them, with their social circle, and maybe it will widen and widen. It is no coincidence that these powers come, or abilities come, only to the good people who deserve them, who will use them wisely. Okay? Right, let's take a look at some of the questions. I'm running a little bit over. Evan is asking how to strengthen the root chakra energy. Okay. I'll just give a short reply, yeah? So root chakra is about foundation. You need to make sure the foundation as a person need to be positive. And even if you don't, the Kundalini awakening will try to change you. If your foundation is very lousy or is full of darkness, as a Kundalini, because it's a positive energy, it's pure, it's of light, it's of goodness, it will try to change that in you. But of course, this process, it doesn't mean that 100% it will complete, and 100% the person will become good. Or it's trying to make that happen, but not everybody finishes the process. And some people, they go cuckoo because they cannot handle it, or they went to this and they have nobody to, to help them with it. All right. So the idea is meant to be like this because it's supposed to happen to people who deserve it, who are actually on the path to goodness. Yeah. So the way to strengthen your Kundalini, your root chakra, is to have a good foundation as a person. You need to be in harmony with yourself, with your past. And usually a lot of people have problems with that. Yeah. Chris is asking, are nadis the same as meridians? No, they are not the same as meridians. So the nadis are the energy channels or pathways for prana, the energy. Okay, the meridians that people are referring to tend to be for the chi system, and there are two separate systems, two separate energies. They are separate, and yet they also, kind of intermingle and work with each other. All right, symbiotically. All right, so meridians is for a different type of energy. Cora is asking, what are common triggers for Kundalini awakening, not forced awakening? So I hope I managed to talk, and explain, like certain events like passing of a loved one is a very common one. Eric is asking, will Kundalini energy affected if one is injured in the spine and tailbone? Okay, that's a very good question. It can happen, and I've seen cases where it happened. All right, so some people fall down and it activated the Kundalini, but usually it comes with a physical injury, and then it's a little bit inconvenient because you have physical injury. Okay, you have physical injury, and then you're experiencing all these things. And of course, a lot of people, when you fall down and if you injure your spine, it's pretty serious. All right, it's pretty serious. Right? If you injure your spine, you can get paralyzed. Yeah, and this also happened to Cordelia. If you read the book, someone pulled the chair from under her when she was sitting as a child, and she was, the doctor even told her parents that she might get paralyzed if it's really very bad, and she was, I don't know, she had to skip school for a long, for some time. All right, so it actually can happen. I have a friend, and he actually went through something like that, and so he has a Kundalini awakening as a result of some fall. So his Kundalini awakening and rising is a bit funny because it was not harmonized and everything. So he had some form of fall, and so so to him is not a Kundalini thing, but for us when we read him, we could tell that it's also Kundalini involved. To him, it's just a physical injury that also injured the nerves, because after he fell, for no reason he would and it will start from the bottom and he will go up. He will like something like that. So it's weird, you talking together and then he will something like that. So actually it is you can say there's a physiological injury. The nerves are obviously impacted, but also the Kundalini was a little bit triggered and a little bit like what do you call unstable. All right. So actually we did some healing for him, and then it improved. So it's not so it's not so it's a bit more smooth after that. Edwin again, forgiveness, let go attitude will let Kundalini passing the sacral chakra easily. Yes. So remember, so a lot of people experience negativity because a lot of negative energies are stored here, and this is where the energies tend to be stored, and they're all usually suppression, our issues, all right, emotions or issues, and this one you need to deal. The way to deal with that is you need to let go, to forgive, or to accept. One things that you cannot accept, that you cannot change, you got to accept. And these are usually the things that happened in the past, right? You need to accept. Okay, even if it's something that's very unpleasant, very traumatic, very unfair that happened to you, and you cannot change it, and if you don't accept it, you're either suppressing it or you're playing over and over again in your mind, and then you will have depression or trauma or something of that form, which is not something good. So you need to do all this, and they're more or less the same thing. Once you accept, you are letting go, forgive, you're actually letting go and moving on. Okay. Edwin, what mission shall the chosen one by the divine Kundalini awakening do? It's actually very hard to say. So usually, people who are on the path to goodness, they will want to make the world a better place according to whatever they know, whatever is, close to their heart. It's very difficult to say. Okay, but whatever it is, most people when they go through this, they will want to help make the world a better place. They can be a teacher of sorts, or of of the ideas that they have, or some can be a change activist, whatever. Some can, maybe after that they'll decide to feed the homeless. It can be anything. Okay. So it's very hard to say. It depends what the person identifies with or what the person can choose. So it's not something like that's directed by heaven or the divine and everybody needs to do more or less the same thing. No, okay? As long as it brings about positive change. Usually it's like that. So Kundalini awakening can happen multiple times because we are processing our own attachments and continuing to let go. Okay, yes, that's what I thought, laugh out loud. Because I feel like it's been happening to me off and on and never truly off, yes. So some of you, you're actually, if you're here, you're probably going through the Kundalini awakenings and you will actually realize you feel these sensations and they continue and you experience it for a few days or, a few days over a time period or a few weeks or a few months. And after that, you may have a break of a few days or a few weeks and then it comes back. Okay, you'll be wondering what's up. But you will notice that at the same time, if you are, and some of you are learning from us and you understand this, right? When we talk about all this, the spiritual energy practices, and also it comes hand in hand on the path to goodness, you must be able to do this. Let go, forgive, accept. Deal with your suppressed emotions, issues with your past. All right, then things will get better. All right, and and I know some of you, you are experiencing this and you are getting better and better. Edwin again, a person on Kundalini awakening will feel heaty whole body and won't catch cold even with minimal thin clothing. No, it's not like that. Okay, it's not like that. But they may feel warmer than usual. They may even feel feverish. All right, but usually this type of is due to the energies, and this energy did not actually result in physical. So they may feel warm, but when they take the temperature, it's still normal temperature, but they feel warm because it's like invisible energies. This prana is a form of invisible energy. It's very hard to say. Okay, but there are some people who actually feel warm and actually the body temperature rises. That also can happen. Valerie is asking, can spinal problems like hernia and other issues prevent Kundalini from rising? Okay, that is a very interesting question. Now, physical issues can affect the Kundalini, okay? It can affect the Kundalini, so it's very hard to say. And yet, if the Kundalini is strong enough, it can also ignore some of those physical limitations because essentially this is a form of energy. So there are people who have now there are also people who go through this type of spiritual Kundalini awakening, rising, and then they find some of their physical symptoms are healed. Because like if they may have a hernia or spinal injury, and if the energy is strong enough and it acts in tandem with other energies like chi in the body, it can actually bring about healing. But there's no promises, okay? I don't want people to start thinking as if you're going to go to Kundalini to try and heal some kind of spinal issue. No, okay? There are other ways, and usually it's more the Qigong way, Qigong breathing, because the stuff that can bring healing is actually more of Qi, so it's not of prana. Okay? Cora's asking, I have a fused spine, but I don't know if that affects the ability for energies to flow properly. Maybe I can ask you in private. Yeah, so some people have fused spine, but it doesn't mean that you don't have the energy pathways. The energy pathways are still there, but the bones may be fused. So it's it's normally a separate matter. All right, so fused spines in general, some of the L, right? Right? Is it your L4, L5 fused or something like that, or fused with the sacral as one? Okay, but the energy pathways, because the nerves will still be there, right? Your nerves are fine, right? You can walk and everything, so normally it should still be okay. Chris asking, do you upload the previous video about involuntary movements in meditation? Yes, I will be uploading them, and it will be posted in YouTube. And Cora is asking, yes, forgiveness is one of my 3 values, and it's been really helpful in letting go. Good, all right. So, Cora, good for you if you are experiencing all this Kundalini, and you will know this is necessary, what you call, is good for you, and it will also help you with this Kundalini that you're going through. Okay. So with that, I think I've addressed all the questions. So no more last minute questions. Yeah, I've overshot quite a little bit. So thank you everyone for having me. I hope I managed to answer your questions and shed some light about on this topic of Kundalini. Okay, deep enough, not too deep, but yet I hope everyone really understands, because I really like to talk about what most people don't understand. Okay, beyond, and I think the main message here is you all need to understand it's actually a path to goodness. Okay, so thank you for having me, and if you feel you've benefited, you can consider making a contribution, okay, a donation to support us. If you can't afford it, that is also fine. Okay, so have a good day, good night, and goodbye.